Hi, everybody. Those of you watching should recognize or know who I am, but in case you don't, my name is Anna Pfalzer. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer for the Koolen-de Vries Syndrome Foundation. And today I am really honored to introduce Jolijn, who is a graduate student, I believe, working with both Dr. De Vries and Dr. Koolen on a really, really important project for our community, and that is establishing a natural history study for Koolen-de Vries syndrome. And I won't go into really great detail as to why this is really important. I will let Jolijn do that. But overall, one really critical take-home message, which I hope you will hear throughout the rest of our presentation today, is that community participation from caregivers and other family members is really critical to establishing this part of the drug development pipeline for KdVS, and that is looking at how symptoms, behaviors, other specific qualities in Koolen-de Vries syndrome changes with age and potentially by different genetic compositions of KdVS. Okay, so without any additional yammering by me, Jolijn, I'll let you take it away.
So, thank you for the great introduction, Anna, and it's very nice to digitally meet all the families. Hi, if you're watching this, it's very nice to meet you. Like Anna said, my name is Jolijn Verseput, and I'm a Dutchie, so if you really want to pronounce my name, it's Jolijn, but Jolijn is something I respond to very well. And I'm a medical doctor and PhD candidate from the Netherlands, and I will be working on the natural history study project. And in this session, I want to tell you all about it. And before we dive into the natural history project, I first want to do a very brief introduction of myself, since I will be performing the biggest part of this project. And also introduce to you the platform that we're using to do the natural history study. So if you're not familiar with it, I will give you a very quick introduction of the Human Disease Gene website series. And after that, we will of course go over the what, the why, and the how of this study. And then there's room for questions, which Anna has very kindly agreed to have a look from your point of view to see what might be very interesting for you to ask me here. And I will also leave some opportunities or some links for you to ask other questions if you have them after watching this session. So before we get into the study, I very quickly want to introduce myself. So like I said, I'm a medical doctor who works at the Radboud University Medical Center in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And there I'm training to become a clinical geneticist, which is a medical doctor that is specialized in hereditary diseases. It could be all kinds of hereditary diseases, but my main interest is in neurodevelopmental disorders, which is why I also started a PhD project where I have 3 years of time to focus on research and learning even more about neurodevelopmental disorders for you as a community, as families, to make sure that we keep adding information to the knowledge that we have for these kind of syndromes that are out there. And my supervisor for this project is a name you might recognize, Bert de Vries. And for Koolen-de Vries, I'm also working with David Koolen as well, to help me in learning as much as possible. So for this project, we will be using the platform called the Human Disease Genes website series, which was developed by my supervisor as an online platform for rare diseases, where clinicians or researchers from all over the world that are experts in a specific rare disease can what we call adopt a gene. So they can say, hey, I'm an expert in this field, I have a lot of knowledge, and I want to keep learning more. And by adopting a gene, they can make their own webpage where they can have information available for other clinicians, other caregivers, about the gene and the syndrome that is caused by variants in that gene. But there's much more, which I will explain in a little bit. And of course, for Koolen-de Vries, we also have a specific webpage. So if you have not visited that before, have a look, because it will also be the place where we will open up the portal for the natural history study data collection. So like I said, on the different kind of websites for different rare diseases, there's always a few things that are available. So there's always information for clinicians, which is more medically orientated. There's information for families, where we try to explain to you as clearly as possible what it means to have a specific syndrome. And for the past few years, we've also had the opportunity there for clinicians to collect more data through this platform. So as you might know, when a new gene is discovered as the cause of a neurodevelopmental disorder, like the cancel-1 gene for Koolen-de Vries, then when research takes place, someone, a very dedicated researcher, need to take time and have money to get out a research paper. You need to collect data on 10, 20, 30 individuals and say, hey, this is what it means to have this disorder. But that takes a lot of time. And then after you publish your data, then the 31st child, 32nd child, they don't get included in these kind of studies anymore because people just don't take the time. And this data collection makes it much easier to add information to what we know about the syndrome. So for Koolen-de Vries, the data collection has been available for a longer time now, which has added a lot of information to what we call the graph and chart, where, for example, you can see that from 163 people, data has been added, and you can see for different categories what people have answered. For example, I've highlighted here the behavioral problems. So 129 individuals had behavioral problems, and if you then want to see what does that contain, there's a long list of different types of things that were reported. So in this way, you can very easily learn new information and get more in-depth information than you would have from all these papers that just take a lot of time. So that was available for the clinicians, but there still we have the problem that clinicians might know one person, enter data there if you're lucky, but there it can stop. And what we wanted to do is make also a portal available for you as families, because you are the experts on your own children with this syndrome and can learn as much more than just one clinician that has seen someone once about what it means to really have Koolen-de Vries syndrome in this case. So that's why we opened a family collection portal where we will also be performing a natural history study for Koolen-de Vries syndrome. So let's dive into that. So what is a natural history study? It is a type of research study that's used more frequently for all kinds of diseases or disorders, where we study the natural course of this disorder. So what that means is that we follow an individual over the course of time, if possible, many, many years, to see what does it mean to have this disorder if we do not interfere at all as researchers. So of course, if someone needs surgery, if someone needs medication, the person can take that, but we as researchers don't decide what surgery that has to be or what kind of medication it has to be. We just look at what are the symptoms, how is the normal development for someone with that disorder if we don't do anything at all. And to do so, we launched the patient portal that I will show you in a bit, where 2 questionnaires are available to give us information about your child or the person that you are caring for with Koolen-de Vries syndrome, to tell us what has happened in his or her life so far. And then after a year, you will get a request to update that information. So year after year after year, we can slowly build like a lifespan or a timeline of what does it mean for your child or the person that you are caring for to have this disorder. So the questionnaires will both be about developmental health, which is a question that you've probably answered a lot to your own clinicians as well, about this diagnosis. And we also included, because we hope that it will help you as parents to get more insight into daily life with someone with this syndrome. Also, if you're, for example, a parent of a younger child, to see what the future might hold or what kind of practical and social skills someone can master if they have Koolen-de syndrome. So there, for example, you will find questions like, can this person stay at home for 30 minutes by him or herself, or can he or she walk a route that he or she has walked before? Can he or she make their own breakfast? Just more the practical day-to-day skills of someone with the syndrome. Why do we do this? So, like Anna already mentioned in the beginning, it's very important as families to help us with these kind of data collection, because on the one hand, I think it's also important for yourself to learn more and to learn from each other. If we study the natural course, we will understand it better. We will get, like I mentioned, longitudinal data. So not just one point in time, just data about one age where this person went to a clinician, the clinician wrote some things down and published that in an article. In a natural history study, we will not only see what happened at 2 years of age, but also at 5 years of age, at 10 years of age. If we do that, then we will be able to see follow-up. So if, for example, a child of 2 years of age does not have epilepsy, can he or she develop it by a certain age, yes or no? If at 10 years of age the person did not have epilepsy, will he or she maybe never develop it anymore? Can it come later? Will it maybe even go away if we go into much more longitudinal data, and also get data from adult individuals? Because as a clinician, that's a question I get asked a lot. What will happen when my child is an adult? Will we see new things? Will everything stay the same? And at this point, we just don't know, because we are lacking data there. So if we keep on every year after each other adding data, we will also get more data on adult patients. So that's, as I think, also very important to have a total picture of what it is like to have Koolen-de syndrome. And like Anna also mentioned, if we ever want to start drug trials, so do a intervention study, where in this case we do say, okay, if you have, for example, epilepsy, then this drug might be better suited for someone with Koolen-de syndrome than other children. So you all should start taking this kind of medicine. If we want to do that, and if we want to see if that really improves then the course of the disorder, then we first need to know what the baseline is. So we first need to know, how does epilepsy normally develop, for example, for children with this syndrome, and then we can start seeing, okay, if we give them this specific drug, does that really change anything or not? So first we need to get the natural course, get the baseline, and then we can learn more about it, but also start doing intervention study, drug studies, and so on. So then the how. So there I wanted to do a little demonstration for you all. So if you're watching this online and you've already read the manual and think, okay, I already got how I need to get into this, you can skip this. But if you have not read the manual yet, I will also now show you step by step how to get started with the natural history study. So if you go to our webpage, so the homepage of the Human Disease Gene website series, www.humandiseasegenes.nl, since it's a website launch from our institute in the Netherlands, you will get to our homepage, and to get to the cancel one, so the Koolen-de Vries webpage, you need to click Gene websites, and there it will lead you to all our different web pages. But we're interested in the cancel one web page. So if you type that here in the search button or in the search box, and then click cancel one, you will be led to our Koolen-de Vries subpage. So like I mentioned, here you can find more information for professionals, for families about Koolen-de Vries syndromes. You can also find our graph and chart with more information that clinicians have collected over the years on this webpage. But now we're of course interested in the page for the natural history study. So to get there, you go to the Families tab and then to the subpage Upload Clinical Information. If you click that, you will go to a form where you can enter some personal information that we need to build your own safe patient environment or family portal. So if you fill out this information and then say submit form, the moderator from the Koolen-de Vries webpage, which is David Koolen, but for now also myself, since I'm now working on this project, we will get a request to send you your login for your own family portal. Once we approve that, you will receive an email that has your login information. So before you get your login information, you cannot get started with the questionnaires, which is something that is important to note here, because that means that between you requesting the form and actually being able to fill it in, there is a bit of a time lag because someone needs to approve your request. And since we work with different time zones, working days or non-working days, there might be a few days delay. So if you, for example, plan to do this on Saturday, it's wise to maybe on Wednesday or Thursday already request the form. That will only take a few minutes. And then if you have time in the weekend, you can get started with the questionnaires. After you've requested your login, you can click on the little person in the top right corner, and there you can fill out your login information. If you do that, you will be led to your own family dashboard. This is a test dashboard that I made, which contains my information. But here you will see, of course, your own information, and then you will see that a form has been made ready for you to fill in. So you will see that it's for cancel one, for Koolen-de Vries syndrome, and if you click the action button, you will go to the form. But before let's just continue there. So if you click the action button, say, hello, I want to fill in my form. You will always need to approve that you have consent or that you give consent to share this information. You will always need to fill in an age before you can go to the next page. But once you get to the form, you can just use the buttons at the bottom to go to previous and next pages. So except from some information on the first page, there is no information obligatory to fill in. So if you ever come to a question where you just don't know the answer and you cannot say, I don't know, just leave it blank, continue to the next question. If you don't know, then you of course cannot fill it in. Or if something doesn't apply to your child, but you cannot say that, then just leave it open, go to the next question. So you can click through all the pages, fill out the answers, and at the top you will see a progress bar that is showing you how far you are in the questionnaire. If you run out of time and you think, okay, I cannot work on this anymore today, but I want to continue another day, you can save the page as a draft. If you do that, then you will see that it is gone from your home page, but it will be moved to My Filled In Forms. So there, under draft, you will then be able to see that the form that you were filling in, this one is from today, is moved to your draft versions, and where you can again click the action button and it will take you back to the form that you were filling in already. You will always move back to the first page because you always need to again clarify that you have consent to share information, but then you can move to the next and you should see that any previously given answers are saved. When you get to the end, the questionnaire will ask you if you want to finish. Once you do that, the question or the questionnaire will be moved to your open tab for as long as the moderator, that will also be reminded that you have closed the form, has not closed it as well. After the moderator has seen that you have filled in your form, closed the form will move to the accept page, where after that you cannot fill it in anymore, but a PDF will be made showing all your answers. So that is all about the questionnaire. You can still read everything I just said in the manual that is available through the Koolen-de Vries Foundation. And like I mentioned, after 1 year, you will get a request to update your information. Very important to note there is that we will make sure that all your previous information is saved. So things like birth weight that we ask at the beginning of the questionnaire, of course, will not change for your child. So it would be silly of us to ask that again and again and again if it always stays the same. So that's sort of things you do not need to fill anymore. You just need to fill in what has changed over the year that has passed. Some other important things. So most things I've already mentioned. Make sure that you remember that there's a little bit of time between your form request and access to your portal. You can save your answers, but don't refresh the page without saving them because then previous things will be lost. And we've already tested this form with some families where they mentioned that for the first time, it will mostly take 30 to 60 minutes to fill it in. And we expect that the follow-up years, it will take much less time since you only need to say what has changed, where we will think it will take only about 15 to 30 minutes to do a second run or a third or fourth. Other very important information is, what do you give us consent for when you click that I give consent button at the top of the page? So the first thing is that we want to make the information that you give us available on the website, just like the graph and chart for the clinical. So I will get into that in a little bit more detail in the next slide, but that's something, it will always be anonymous, so it will never be retraceable to your child, but information from the total group that has filled in the questions will be made available on our website. Furthermore, the moderator might decide to do analysis of the data that you have provided. So for example, after 10 years, the moderator might think, okay, I want to publish an article on the trajectory of epilepsy for children with Koolen-de Vries syndrome. If they want to do a publication of that and use the data from Human Disease Gene website series, from your patient portal, it will always be in an anonymous way. So some of you might have worked with researchers on the previous Koolen-de Vries publications where we do case publications. In that case, the details from specific child, but sometimes even a picture, is made available in that publication. So if you look very closely, or if you are familiar maybe with the clinician that sent in the information, you might be able to retrace that information to a person. With this data, that will never be possible because we will never publish just the data of one person as a individual data set. We will always do group publications. So that's how we will make sure that if you consent to giving us this data, we will never publish it in such a way that it's retraceable to your child. And the last thing is that it might be the case that we, as moderators, approach you for some follow-up questions through the email that you have provided. So if you agree to give us information, you might be approached to give a bit more information than that you've already provided. So like I said, just like the graphing chart for the clinical data, we really want to make the data that you provide us available on the website as well, so that you as parents or as caregivers can directly learn from each other. So for many of these types of databases where we ask families to enter information, the information just disappears into the database and you never see it again. Or maybe in a publication at the end if you're lucky. But here we want to make sure that the information that you give us is instantly available for you as families, so that you can also very easily learn from each other by being a part of this natural history study. So at first it will probably resemble the clinical graphing chart, where we just show you the whole group and the answers that were given. So where did someone answer yes or no as a group? But over time, of course, we will also have individual data that is spans over longer periods of time. So we want not only to show data for the total group, but also give you an individual development representation. There, I have to be quite honest, we're not sure yet how we're going to do that, but we're working very hard on this. So that will be available in the upcoming years. But first, as it's only data from one point in time, it will be a total group data. Okay, so now we'll make some time for questions that Anna will ask me. But if you've watched this seminar and you have any questions that were not asked during the final time, please contact me through info@humandiseasegenes.nl, because that's the information mail from our website series, where you can ask me any questions that you might still have. Or I will also be attending the Koolen-de Summit this summer in Chicago. So if you are there and you want to ask me some live questions, please don't hesitate to ask me them there.
Awesome. This was great. Thank you so much. This is really a fantastic initiative. I think this is going to be really helpful for sort of, like you said, figuring out which symptoms change with age, which symptoms vary by maybe even males and females by sex. Yeah, I think this is a really great way, a really great project and a really great way to do that. Okay, so one of the things, okay, so I'm going to pretend like I'm somebody, like a parent who, or a caregiver or some other family member who just listened. And can you go to the slide that's like where they start? Like they go to the human disease, or sorry, human gene, sorry, what's the name of it?
Shall I put back the...
Yeah, it's where you have like the, yes, human disease genes. All right. So this is where people start, right? If we're to distribute the link, this is where they start and they make an account. Okay. So the slide that I saw had Cancel 1. Does it make it super clear, you know, since most of the kids have the microdeletion? Is it going to be really clear for parents who are completing this for kids who have the microdeletion, that, you know, on your slide, Cancel 1 was what sort of popped up on the website, but for microdeletion kids, will it say the microdeletion or the gene? Do you know what I mean?
So it will always be named under Cancel 1, because we know for the microdeletion kids that is the gene that is the most disturbing the neurons or the
but there's a place for people to say what their kid has, right? Or they
we ask on the first page, do you know what variant was found?
Okay.
So there parents who know that the microdeletion was found can answer yes, and then enter there that their child has the microdeletion.
Got it. Is there a space where you want people to upload their genetic reports? Like when we're telling people to fill these surveys out, should they have their genetic reports on hand so they can upload them? Or is
No,
it
so the
just the record?
only, because these genetic reports tend to have some personal information, so there
Got it.
we are just simply not allowed to
Got it.
get that kind of information because of privacy reasons. So
Okay.
that's why the only thing we ask is, do you know the variant that was found?
Okay.
Um, so we do not ask for the whole um,
Okay.
results from the testing.
Um, okay. And so this study right here is just surveys. There's no part of it that's like sort of live interviews or in-person assessments or anything like that. It's just a series, not just, but it is a series of questionnaires, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you think you said it took about somewhere between 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how long it takes people.
Yeah.
And I think you also said that you can stop. Like if you need to take a break or you get interrupted, you can stop where you are, save what you've done, and then
Yeah.
sort of re-log back in.
Definitely. So there is a save button at the bottom of each page of the questionnaire. So you can just save draft over there, and then under your draft tab in the dashboard, it will be saved to go back to it later. And even if you close the form at the end, and then a few hours after you think, oh, I entered something wrong, you can still go back to the questionnaire and change your answers until the time that the moderator has seen it and has definitely closed it in the end. So there is a lot of time between opening the questionnaire for the first time and the final closure by the moderator to make sure that you have all the information entered there that you want to give us.
Got it. Okay. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. So is this is limited to people who can fill this out in English, correct?
So for now, we only have an English
Okay.
version available. We are thinking about getting some translations up, but we're just not there yet.
Got it. It's okay.
So for now, it's an English version. Yeah.
But people internationally, there's no limitations on sort of geographic location for people to participate. So we
No,
can distribute
definitely
this
not.
broadly to anybody in any continent. Okay, as long as they can speak or read English. Okay.
Yeah, as long as they feel comfortable with answering the questions. So most questions are just multiple choice. You can just click a button. So if you understand enough English or feel comfortable with translating it. So I know a lot of people, for example, also use ChatGPT or other language models to translate some information if you ever are in doubt of what we mean in English. There's some open boxes. So if there you wouldn't feel totally comfortable with giving us the information in English, if you want, you can always answer it in your own language, and we have to translate it.
Okay. Yeah.
That is an option, but most questions or all questions are in English.
Got it. And all of these surveys are caregiver reported, right? None of them are for adult patients to fill it out themselves, or can adults fill this out? Can patients fill it out for themselves for the population
Yes,
who are
of course.
adults?
If they
I am a patient. Oh, I see.
yeah, you can say that you're the patient yourself. So we know that some individuals will have the capacity to do it by themselves, so they can say that they're the patient themselves, or they can, if you are a caregiver, a parent, any other type of caregiver, you can enter that you're not the patient and answering it about the patient.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah.
And one thing that we get asked, although people don't act on this very frequently, is if someone fills this out and then they, for whatever reason, decide they don't want to participate anymore, is there a way that they can pull out their data or their kids' data?
Yeah, of course. So if you contact us because we have your email address and a little bit of information about the person that is entering information, we can easily trace back the forms that you have filled out.
Got it.
So if you ever want to take out your data, you just contact us through our information mail that I put up on the last slide.
Yep. Okay.
And we will just take out your
Got it.
information, of course.
One thing that I thought, yeah, so like I said, the people ask the question way more often than they actually withdraw consent to participate, but people always want to know if that's possible. So one thing I think is super interesting is, and I think is really important for a rare disease community, is to sort of start seeing how their data fits into the bigger picture of like other people who are filling out these surveys. And so I can see this slide actually. So you're saying like people can look and sort of see aggregate data based upon what other people are responding, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
What about their own data? For example, if they're participating, I don't know, in another clinical research study that is asking a lot of these similar questions, are they able to sort of, I don't know, download their responses to one survey and say, and just give it to somebody and be like, here, this is what I just filled out.
So this is now blank because I did not take the time to fill out everything, but here under my filled in forms under accepted, there a PDF will be generated of all the answers that you have
cool.
There for each version. So
and
there
people are free to share that with what other researchers.
It's your information, of course. So
that's really very neat, actually. Is there a way to do the reverse? For example, if somebody has filled out all of these surveys, but I mean, I guess, is there a way to collect information from people for other studies? Like, let's say, for example, someone enrolls in a study for me, I don't know, or whoever else, and it's a lot of overlap. Is there a way to import some of that data here instead of making them fill it out again?
So not right now, because to do that, you would need some sort of AI tool to get out the answers from one survey and load them into the next one. I know that other researchers are working on techniques to do that more easily. But at this point, it's just not available yet. But that's also a question we get asked a lot from other clinicians, for example, that have a lot of data that they want to upload to the clinical portal. But they still also need to do it all by hand. So that's also something that behind the scenes we're working on, what we call bulk upload. So upload of bigger sets of data that have been generated for something else. So if we have that available for clinician, I think we will also be working on that for the family portals. But for now, it's still you have to do it by hand still.
Okay. So one other thing that I was thinking of is probably it sounds like something you guys might already be working on, but you guys are using the HDGWID. That's the unique identifier you. Is there a way? I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of a world where we're, collaborating across all of our clinicians who are doing research on KdVS.
Yeah, that would be,
because there's always a certain, you know where I'm going with this is like, there's always the same people tend to participate in research over and over. And so I would want to know, is the person who filled out my survey the same person who filled out your survey, or are they different?
Yeah, so that's why we ask here if there's a patient research identification number available. So if someone is in another research study,
so like a different one, like a different general universe. Beautiful.
So if someone knows that they are also participating in some other studies, they can enter that here and enter another identification number, so that in theory we could link the data together. There we are really dependent on parents that are participating in other studies, that they know their identification numbers, but if they have them, they can enter them here as well.
Got it. That's so cool. That's such a good idea. Okay. Okay. This is great. So what's the best way for us to, you think, to start distributing this broadly to our community? Because the summit is coming up. So that would be a super good time to
Yeah.
see how many people. Yep.
Yeah, we definitely agree that the summit is a great way to get in touch with you all, people watching this seminar, but also maybe people that have not found the seminar on your YouTube page. So what we want to do is, if you register for the patient summit, you
Hmm.
will also um, get information by the email that you
Got it.
register on this opportunity to start participating here with all the information, of course. So we have made it available for the foundation, so the patient information folder you already have and the manual. So that's something would be great if you could distribute that
Yeah.
to your community. But we also want to just make it available for especially people coming to the summit so that they know that we are starting this. They can ask all their questions at the summit, so that we make sure that everyone feels ready and well informed to get started with this if they want to.
Um, so I don't know logistically how this could work, but Ashley and others on the research team for the foundation have built in sort of a box for people to check to say, yep, I want to participate in research in general or research at the summit, which I think this would fall under.
Yeah.
Um, However, historically, I know that all of these caregivers are very busy and don't actually ever have free time. And so there's always a little bit of chasing or wrangling that needs to be done. Um, how would you recommend, if I have a list of 100 caregivers who say they want to participate in research, but I have really no good way of figuring out who's actually gone to your website and signed up and who I need to do some more sort of wrangling. Like, is there any way to do that? Or do I just keep saying, hey, if you've done this, ignore me. But if you haven't done this, because I know from my perspective, or I mean, from my own experience, I don't remember what I've done and haven't done. And we ask a lot of these people to fill out,
Yeah.
20 different surveys all the time. So I don't even know if I would remember which things I've done and haven't done.
No, so if you're happy with it, I would be very happy as well to help you with the wrangling. So if
Okay.
I just know who is interested in participating, I can
Okay. So
help
on
with
your
it. I can also see in our database who has been entering information, so I
okay.
know to stop bugging and who to maybe send a
Follow.
reminder.
Got it. Okay. So you can see all of that information on the back end and we can sort of work together, or you can with the other foundation to be like these people. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That's what I think that would be very helpful. Okay. Cool. Um, Actually, I don't know if you're in a place where you can ask questions, but can you think of anything that I already didn't just like rapid
Those
fire?
were all great. I think this is exciting, and we look forward to continuing our work together.
yeah, me too, very much. Maybe one thing I remembered that was asked at another webinar I did, and I think it's a good question, is so some people have been asking me, so for example, my child is 9 years old and something was present in the past but is not present anymore. For example, we know that a lot of younger children tend to have more infections, and as they get older, then that symptom disappears. So if you start this questionnaire, your child is now 9 years old, and this person does not have infections anymore, or not more than other children, you just say no.
Mm.
So you don't need to answer everything with whatever happened in the past. We really want to start. We start at a specific point, and if your child is 9 years of age when you start filling out this questionnaire, we start with this point in time and then go from there. And if we do that with a nice big group of parents, then we will get the total span of ages over time. So we will get to see that maybe the tendency is that until 5 years of age, those infections are very common, and then after that, they disappear. But we will only be able to see that if you answer the questions for this point in time. So there's a few specific questions that ask about the past, But if it's just a question, is this present at this point of time? You just answer it for this age. And if something was ever present when your child was younger, but it's not present anymore, you just answer no.
Got it. I have one final question, I think, which might seem kind of silly, but is there a need for typical developing for caregivers to fill out any of this for typical developing children? Like, is there if this is sort of a way to create a natural history study for an affected population like KdVS or, you know, the many other genes that you guys are looking at, what are you comparing the KdVS trajectory to compared to, you know what I mean? Like, if we're asking caregivers to fill this out for their KdVS, their cool kid, do you also want us to try and push to get people to fill it out for their non-cool kid as well? No. Okay.
So it's only for children with the Koolen-de syndrome. Because at this point in time, we're not really comparing to anything else than just each other. So we want to get information on like the total width of development for children with Koolen-de. So what's the child that had the fastest development, and what's the child that had the slowest development, and then your child will be somewhere in between, but we will get the total spread if we
got
the information for many years. But we will, for now at least, not be comparing to children with a what you might call regular development. Maybe somewhere in the future, but now it's just comparing them to each other.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Okay. I think this is amazing. This is fantastic. This is great. It's always awesome to have, like, to hear about another person who's doing, you know, clinical research and Koolen-de syndrome. I just think it's really exciting, and especially how collaborative you've made it and how easy it is to share people's data back and forth. I think that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I think it's we're all obliged in a way to make sure that everything is we are able to share this with other researchers, but also with the families themselves, so that we can just all learn from each other and not someone hoarding back their data, because that's no one is helped by that.
Yeah. Do you think that you'll have, so I know that you guys have, Radboud has a huge cohort of KdVS patients. Do you think that you will have data to present by the time of the summit? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but how many KdVS people have completed it already?
So for now, it's only the test families, because we wanted to make sure that it was fully up and running before we asked any other families. But we do hope that we will have some data to present. But like you said, it's first it's a bit of a push to get started. I hope once you're started, they have seen that it's all very easy, and it should even get easier as time goes by, because you only need to update the changes from the last year. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Got it. Understood. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you very much. We will get this uploaded, and it has your email to reach out to with any questions, and then we'll see you in person in a couple months too, which I'm really looking forward to.
Me too, and thank you for the opportunity to get this information out there. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me.
All right. Thank you.